and novellas that were on the long list for the Hugo Awards. Every year, David Steffen puts together this book, and it has a Kickstarter. He runs a Kickstarter for it. And this was my third cover for the anthology. And let's see, I'm going to try to share my screen now. Let's see, share screen. All right, hopefully you all are seeing this. Okay. All right, so yes, so in these covers are always kind of interesting because, and I've had people ask me before, are they based on a story that's in the anthology? And the answer is no. Because when David contacts me, it's usually a few months before he actually has the list from the Hugo Committee. So we don't know what's going to be in the book. We try to come up with something that is, you know, fantastical, of course. And he contacted me about this one in July of 2019. And he always launches his Kickstarters on Labor Day weekend. And I said, of course, I always enjoy working on covers for David Steffen. If you're not familiar with David Steffen, you'll want to check out diabolicalplots.com. He publishes a lot of short fiction, not just him, but other authors. And he puts out another anthology every year called Diabolical Plots. And I did the cover for that one as well. And that won a Chesley in 2019, it's a great little book. But this one, yeah, he contacted me in July of 2019. And this is where we go really behind the scenes. At the time that he contacted me, I was a caregiver for my mother, who was battling breast cancer. And in fact, July was a crazy, crazy month. I was actually afraid that I might lose her. She had developed a blood clot and had pneumonia, and it was rough. But he made me promise at the beginning of her cancer treatment to not stop. She didn't want me to stop, doing illustration. She didn't want me to stop going to conventions. And I powered through. And somehow I managed to pull this cover off and had it ready in time. I still look back and I'm kind of amazed that this all happened. But yeah, he reached out to me in July, and I said yes, of course. And I told him, I said, let me look through my archive of ideas, because most artists have either a list or a sketchbook or a folder of, hundreds of different ideas. And I did have something very old. It was this little sketch, you should be able to see it on your screen now, of a little airship, riding into the dawn, into the clouds. And I had always meant to come back to this and develop it further, redesign the ship, change the orientation. And I gave David a couple other ideas as well, but he immediately latched on to this one, especially when I said, wouldn't it be great if, we had like giant fish or animals of some sort, something fantastical and whimsical in the clouds. And he said, yes, just, do it. And that's one of the other things that's great about David. He loves going back and forth talking about ideas, but in the end, he will give the artists the reins to do what they do. And that is the best way to get the best art out of any artist, is to say, do what you do, make what you love. And that's what I did. And I think despite all of the turmoil that was going on personally at home, I put a lot of joy and hope into this painting because that's what I needed at the time. And I had no idea after the fact that it would touch so many and end up winning the award. But in the beginning, as with all artworks, we look for our reference images, our inspiration. So, I started looking for images of clouds with some of those absolutely phenomenal colors that just seem to explode in the sky. Because, I wanted to get that right. And there's a lot of variations to clouds. Clouds are not white. Clouds pick up on all the colors that are reflected through the sun's light in the sky, on the surface. And I wanted to be able to capture that, but also give it my own twist. And then, of course, there were the fish. This one, you will notice, is almost exactly like one of the fish on the cover. And I had a lot of fun looking at photos of these fish. I decided that I wanted to be somewhere between a catfish and koi. And so because I just love the whiskers. And I'm a cat person, so there's no surprise there. But yeah, lots of fish. Fish and clouds. The most challenging part of this cover, though, by far, was the ship. And there were actually, I have a blog post on my website about this painting, and I think I shared a few of the different airship designs, but there were more than that. And I think I've collected all of them here. So this one is, let's see, this one is, it's not the one that's on the cover, but that's one design. A lot of the designs were based around basically what we wanted the sails to look like. I actually personally really liked this one a lot. The sail on top kind of reminded me of flames. And I thought that would go well with, the kind of the light coming through the clouds. But in the end, I did let David have his pick, and he eventually chose this one. But we ended up taking the name off of the side. One of the things that was important about this ship is we wanted it to look hodgepodge. We envisioned the captain of the ship to be a young woman, very independent, an adventurer who was basically building her ship piecemeal, little by little, with all the little spare parts that she could find. And there was something very endearing about that. Yeah, I had a lot of fun just playing with different sails and let's see. But in the end, we chose one. And what I like to do with covers especially, you have to keep in mind the composition of the artwork and how it's going to look with the title. So I actually took the previous year's book and I overlaid my sketch on top of it to kind of see, okay, is this going to work? Because it's a very busy design. Unlike last year's, which I actually have it right here. Last year's, the year before that is The Girl Under the Tree. And there was plenty of space for all that text. This one, I felt like I had a whole lot more going on, these different fish, and I didn't want them being too covered up. The painting itself is wider than what is on the cover. And so I also had to make sure that, when it's cropped, everything is still, the important bits are still going to be in there. And it seemed to work, so we kind of started with that. And this was the first sketch. And it didn't end up quite staying like this. I ended up being displeased with the fish that is in the bottom right. It just kept bugging me. And so you'll see as I go through these, it just kept changing. And I finally decided, okay, that fish needs to go and I need to redraw it and put something else in. At this point, I don't even have her in here. I was focusing on other elements, but the captain of the ship will appear. She does not have a name. Sometimes I do name every little element in a painting, but this one, you know, it's my idea, but it's also for somebody else. And in some instances, unless I get specific feedback, I kind of leave it open. That's just how I tend to work. And let's see. So yeah, the first stages of any illustration is similar, whether you're working in digital, which this is digital, or traditional. I tend to start with the background. Let me see if I can see that. I don't think I can look. I can't look at the chat while I have my screen shared, but I will look at that when I can. If somebody has a question, go ahead and unmute. You can ask me right now. That's totally fine. But yeah. Did somebody have a question? I thought I heard somebody.
He was wondering if you did this by hand or in Photoshop.
It is Photoshop. Yeah, it's Photoshop. I work both traditionally and digitally, but a lot of my cover work, at least from 2019 and before then, is all digital. That might change. I've been exploring some different possibilities in the last year, and it actually might end up becoming a mix. But this piece was painted entirely in Photoshop. It was even sketched out in Photoshop. I have some wonderful brushes that I really love. But I was trained traditionally, and I do get that asked that quite a bit. And I approach my digital work like I would an acrylic painting. So I start from the back and kind of work my way forward and layer things. And unlike some artists, I think because I started off in traditional work, a lot of it, I don't have a ton of layers in Photoshop. I tend to flatten stuff very often. If there's something I don't like, I just repaint it. I don't always keep elements separated. And sometimes I kick myself for that because, you know, there are certain things about working digitally that do make it easier. But I just don't tend to adhere to those. But yeah, I started on the background in this, let's see. And then I tend to bounce around a little bit, especially if I'm testing out different elements. So let me see with that. Yeah, so the next one, yeah, I'd started working on the sails and the ship, and I wanted to make sure that, you know, I was tying in colors with the sky and wanted to make sure everything was working. And then I started building the fish. I ignored the boat just to I wanted to make sure things were working there. But the love of the painting were these fish. And I really wanted to make sure I gave them attention. I wouldn't actually mind doing another painting of this nature just with clouds and fish. I think it would be a lot of fun. Let's see. And I actually, for this, again, if you go to my website and you see that blog post, it has a few of these still shots that I took. But this morning when I was building this, I actually went and I just took all of my screenshots. So I'm not even sure. I think there's 13 in here. So this is like every single screenshot that I took. And many of these I would send to David as I was going along, just to make sure that he was pleased with where things were going. You can see that fish is still down there in the left corner, but he won't be for long. And of course, I had to put some birds in it, even if it's only two little small birds. Those of you that know me know that I have an obsession with birds. And I guess I could talk a little bit too about the title of the ship. people have asked me about this before. Poisson d'art is French. It means it's fish art, fish gallery, but it also sounds like poison dart, which David was the one that came up with this, and it was purposeful, especially because of the little spike there on the ship.
There's an E too much there. If you want it to be art fish. But Arte is a program in France. It's a television program which is between Germany and France.
Oh, is it really?
Sell it to them. Why not?
Yeah,
it might work.
Oh my goodness, that would be great.
Arte. It's called Arte. Okay.
That's great. All right, and yeah, so that's the nice thing about this. I can actually scroll in a bit and you guys can see some of these details that I started developing. But yeah, so, these fish at this point in the painting, they're not done, but I got them to a place where I was relatively happy with, and then I take a pause and I work on more things. That tends to keep me pretty inspired when I'm working on a painting, not focusing on one thing until it's done, but kind of hopping around, doing a little bit of this, getting it to a semi-finished point, and then moving on to something else. Let's see. Yeah, just more details in the ship that I was working on. Oh, I added some whiskers here. Let's see. Yeah, I spent quite a lot of time on the ship. The details on the ship, they just demanded it. One, for printing purposes. I had to make sure that the ship was crystal clear among everything that was going on in this painting. Let's see where we're at. Oh yeah, the dolphins. I have to admit, this was one of my favorite parts of the painting, was adding the dolphins and then this kind of diffuse, magical, light that was just kind of drifting onto the clouds. The dolphins were actually one of the last things that was a suggestion from David. He really wanted something else in the painting, something in the wake of the ship. And I thought, well, that has to be dolphins because that's what they do. Oh, yeah. And this is, I'm trying to think. Yeah, the fish is starting to change. You can see down here, he's morphed a little bit. Let me go back one. So yeah, this is what the fish looked like in that bottom left corner from the sketch. And then I was still sort of going with that, but I still wasn't happy. And that happens. You can have the best ideas for a painting and something will still just not work. You can see I'm like, I painted over him. I just painted over him, changing the colors. I was like, maybe he's just not working right. Down there in that dark corner, still wasn't right. So then I just got rid of him and started over from scratch. And sometimes that's just what it takes. And then I was happy. All of a sudden, he just seemed to work much better with the painting as a whole. And let's see. Okay, yeah, there's one more image in this that is technically the final image. Let's see. Oh, yeah, here she is. Well, that's part of her. She's actually not done in this. I must not have taken a final whip, but you'll see the image in a minute. I'm going to pull up. But yeah, I put her in very last. The ladder, all the ropes. Let's see. And Yeah, there she is. Yeah, the young adventurer on her ship, looking for the morning catch. I think I identified a bit with her because I've always been a person of keen independence, and forging my own path. And to be able to illustrate a little character like that, yeah, I definitely probably put a little bit of me into her. Yeah. Let's see what else I've got in here. Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, I had a lot. Let me see how many. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I kept tweaking things at the end. I couldn't remember how many files were in here. I tend to take as many screenshots as I can when I'm working, and I don't always do that. It's easy to forget because, you know, you're working and you get focused on things and you just forget. But I like to do that, whether it's traditional art or digital, because in the end, it's really nice to be able to go through, to see how things progressed, to look back at earlier images and think, oh, wait a minute, maybe I should revert to this. Sometimes I'll resave files, especially if I do a major change. Like when I changed this fish, I'm pretty sure that I actually saved a brand new Photoshop file, because what if I wanted to go back to the previous fish? I didn't want that to be totally lost. So as you can imagine, these files end up taking up an enormous amount of space. I'm pretty sure the file size for this painting alone was around 500 megabytes, which you don't think is very much, but when you have, you know, dozens and dozens of these things, they start taking up a lot of space. Let's see.
What resolution are these images in pixels?
300 megapixels. So this is like the full resolution that I put in here. It's, yeah, you can see, I mean, when you're looking at her on the cover, you can't really see her face, but it is there.
That's a lot of pixels.
It is a lot of pixels. It's a lot. Yeah. I mean, even some of the wood grain on the ship is in there. Which, yeah, maybe nobody would ever see that, but, you know, those things I think do still translate a little bit on the printed image. And so it's important. Yeah, I love details. Anybody that's seen my graphite art, you know, I love details. It's important. It's also important when to know when to leave things more rough. I mean, there was only so much I was going to do with her face. That's one of the things with cover work, especially anything that's going to be printed, whether it's a book cover or game art. You have to be aware that there are some details that you can't go too far on. And one of those tends to be faces. You want it to be recognizable as a face. But if you put too much detail in, if it's a very small piece of an image, it overdoes it. So with her, what I needed to do was just to make sure, you know, okay, from out here, you can tell that that's a little person there. That's the important part. But yeah, these are pretty huge files. And let's see, I think there's one more in here. Yeah. I mean, when it gets down to like the last few images that I'm working in, I'm not even sure what details. I don't even remember now. What was I working on? What did I tweak? Because there's always things at the end that I go back in and I do a little bit more. Like, you know, the highlights on this propeller in the back. Catching some of the light from the sun. That might have been That might have been one of the things towards the end that I was doing. Little tiny bits. But yeah, like for instance, the dolphin's face, simple, didn't need to be overdone. It's knowing when to push and when not to push, which sounds very Karate Kid, but it's true. And then, okay, yeah, I think that's it for that. But let me see if I can, I don't think I can pull that up, but you guys can see some of that cover there. The cover was actually designed by graphic designer Pat Steiner. And he has done all the covers for the Long List anthologies. And I always think he does an amazing job every year, pulling from the colors, making everything complement. But you can see there's a great list of authors here. Some that I have been lucky enough to get to know while working on these covers. A.T. Greenblatt, she is absolutely wonderful. If you're on Twitter, definitely look her up. I consider her a Twitter friend. It'd be great if maybe I could meet some of these people in person one day. But let's see, we got through that pretty quick. Are there any other questions? I don't mind rambling about various things. You all have seen the one from the year before. I have that one, and then the very first one.
How long does it normally take you to do a piece?
I usually, if I have to have at least 4 weeks. I prefer longer, but 4 weeks, yeah, I like having about a month to work on something, unless it's being licensed, like this one. Let's see, I'm going to stop my screen share. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so this cover was the very first one, and he licensed this piece. He found my Fox on Twitter and ended up loving it so much that he contacted me to have that one on the first cover. This one has Shannon McGuire, Cat Rambo. Yeah, I love having my name associated with some of these authors that I love. But these have been great. The Long List Anthology has been a wonderful experience for me, and getting to know David and that community. I'm eternally grateful. Any other questions?
How full is your upcoming schedule this year?
Oh, honestly, as far as illustration goes, not too terribly full, but I kind of purposefully did that. I do have art that I'm going to be working on for Chattacon for 2022. And I have art that I'm going to be working on for Mid-South Con that I will be the artist guest of honor for next year. So those things are going to keep me pretty busy. But I've also been, as I mentioned, kind of exploring some different roads with my art, looking back at my love for graphite. And I would really like to work more traditionally again, but probably combine some of that traditional with digital. So much of 2020, I was focused on that. A lot of working on my own personal project for my Patreon, but also behind the scenes, kind of laying the groundwork for where I want to go next. And so I'm hoping this year, I'm going to take everything that I kind of started brainstorming and working around in 2020, and in 2021 I want to actually put that like into I don't know what I'm trying to say. I want to make it a reality. So it should be an exciting year. So I've actually turned down, which is always a scary prospect for an artist. I've turned down a couple illustration commissions because I really want to make some inroads into this new path. And it's not the first time I've done this. I have a history of reinventing myself. Some of you know I was a fine artist, especially when I was living in London in the UK. And I did a lot of abstract art for a while. I did a lot of nature art. There was an exhibition in Surrey that I did that was all paintings of stones. And I love nature and pebbles, which I still do. I have like a ton of rocks and different things around my studio. They still end up in my art. But when I came back to the United States, I kind of continued on that nature art, and then I slowly started making my way into fantasy art, and then science fiction, and now I think what I'm doing is I'm taking some of those early days of my fine art, and I'm trying to weave them into my fantasy and sci-fi art. So that's going to be the next leg in my artistic journey. Fingers crossed. I'm sure I can do it. If I've reinvented myself this many times, I don't see why I can't do it again. So
I've always enjoyed your fractal planet astronomical.
yes. And I'm going to continue to have those. I just, that's the thing about me. I love all of it. And I don't think at this point, I know a lot of people think of me as a spring chicken, but I'm going to be 45 this year, which is just still young, but I'm no youngster, as the rotator cuff injury in my shoulder has told me.
Ignore the pain, drink your whiskey, it's okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the other thing I'm dealing with right now is a rotator cuff injury, which has not been fun. But that's just part of life. But yeah, I love doing it all. And I think you get to a certain point in your life and you think, well, why can't you just do it all? I love working with fractals. I love digital painting. I love working in graphite. There's nothing wrong with exploring all of it at this point in my life.
I have known a lot of people who dabbled in fractals as an art medium, and most of them fail. And what I love about your stuff is that you really have made it art. Thank you. Yes, I think that is just because I look at fractals in a different way. I do some of the same things that all fractal creators do. For those of you not familiar, fractals are basically really complicated math. And when you open up a fractal program, it's basically a mess of numbers, a mess of numbers and formulas. And whether you actually understand what those things are, you learn to tweak them and adjust them. And the adventure for me with fractals was finding that hint of something else. Fractals are repeating patterns, but within those patterns, it was an adventure for me to actually find something tangible that looked like something, and then push that further to make it into, people would wonder, wow, is that a fractal? And yes, it is a fractal. It's just my own, my artistic version of a fractal. So yeah. People who come at it from a computer science background, which is my background, they often don't understand things like composition and lighting. And right. What first struck me about your work in fractals was that you lit it. You lit it like it was a physical object. Right. Like, finally, somebody gets it. Yeah. And I love that lighting. When I first started, exploring fractals, and I was like, oh my gosh, you can add lighting. I just freaked out. I was like, oh, this is amazing. Yeah. It's like a kid with a toy at Christmas. It is. And I recognize that my art background definitely played a role in how I created my fractals. And there will be more. There will definitely be more. I actually have an entire computer
that is dedicated only to fractal generation, because it takes time. You see those beautiful images, and they sometimes take hours upon hours to render. Once I get something the way I want it, you have to actually render it into something, into a ping or a JPEG. And yeah, it takes time. You've got to have a lot of patience. So it's great having a dedicated computer for that, because then I can be working on something else.
It's not unusual in the Hollywood world for a single frame of a film, Pixar film, to take 8 hours, one frame.
Yeah, I believe it. I've had fractals where when I hit the render button, it's like, it's going to take 24 hours. I'm like, whoa, okay.
That's when you want a really good UPS on that machine.
Oh, yeah.
You've got weak power.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's nice being able to hit render over there and then come over to my other laptop where I do all my digital painting. I actually have 3 computers in this room. The one I'm on now is just my everyday laptop for social media and email.
I won't tell you how many computers I have in my house. I mean,
Oh,
very large one behind me right here, of course, but
yeah.
For non-professionals to have multiple computers always brings joy to my heart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love my computers. I love my technology. I'm sure, especially as an artist that also loves traditional art, I don't know, I'm probably not the norm to have all this technology in my studio. It is definitely an eclectic mix of my love of nature, drawing, and then, yeah, computers and science fiction and xenomorphs and you name it. I've got a lot of stuff. Any other questions? Britt, it's really great to see you in here. I love seeing some of my friends in here from other cons.
You need something with lionfish.
Oh, yes. Lionfish are amazing. They are. I actually wanted a lionfish many, many years ago. I used to keep aquariums. Yeah, that was an expensive hobby. That was one I had to let go of.
Lionfish in space.
Yes, that could happen. I'm going to jot that one down into the tomb of art ideas. Well, obviously I didn't time this as well as I could have, since we still have 20 minutes, but that's okay. I don't mind hanging out and discussing things. I do have another panel today at 4 p.m. I'm actually going to work on a portrait in pencil. We'll see how much I get done in 50 minutes, but I don't know if you can see her. Let me see. Yeah. From the movie Avatar. Yeah, I love that movie. I haven't seen it in years because, God, it's a movie, it's a commitment to sit down and watch. But I was thinking about that when I was like, I had the idea for the panel, tea and extraterrestrials. I was like, okay, but what extraterrestrial? I decided on her. So that should be interesting and fun to see how much we get done on that. And that's it as far as panels for me, although I'll be around Discord. I've gotten quite used to using Discord over the last year. I used it a little bit before all the cons began going online to play games with some friends, that don't live near me. But this year, yeah, I've had to really past year, I've had to dive in. I'm sure all of you can relate. Getting used to a new program that just makes no sense in the beginning. Oh yeah, I'm seeing heads nodding. Yes. Yes.
I wish I'd had more time to set up my sister with her laptop so she could participate here, because the nerd gene, the technology genes all went to me. Lots of
Yeah.
very wonderful, valuable, highly prized genes went to my sister, but technology genes all landed here.
Yeah, it's the opposite between my brother and I. My brother, the technology, no, and he's 10 years younger than me, and he's just no. It's just he doesn't understand. He's not even on Facebook.
So he has a life, was what you're saying.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Yeah, he actually has spent quite a lot of time in Alaska and came back just, what was it, I don't know when he came back, last summer? The end of last summer, he came back. So he's he's in Knoxville, Tennessee now. So
Have
not
you
too
done
far.
anything similar to like movie poster artwork?
I have not, no. No, I have not. I've thought about it though, as far as composition goes, because movie posters, that's a very specific look, and I have been my mind has been turning in those circles lately. Actually, I have another piece of art kind of on the back burner. I have a tarot card that I have to finish, which is through my artist collective. I guess that counts as illustration. I always forget about it. And then I have a piece of fan art that I very much want to make. And I've been thinking about the composition of that in terms of some of the things you see in movie posters. So I haven't done anything movie poster related yet, but the wheels are turning in the back of my mind as far as composition and how you work in different elements. So you might see something similar to that in the coming months.
Are you possibly open to new commissions in the near future?
We'll see. I need to get through the next few months and then see where things stand. Because I do have quite a bit of art that I want to get done for Chattacon for next year, which I have all year. And of course I have art for Mid-South Con. So I'm hoping to wrap up my tarot card art by the end of February, and then I want to work on this large piece of fan art for my birthday month in March. And then we'll see where things stand in April, May. I might open up for some commissions. We'll just have to see. Get back in touch with me. So, all right. I think we have about 5 minutes left technically. Any final questions? Otherwise, you guys can find me in my channel. I will be popping in and out of there all weekend. It dings me. I even have it on my phone. It was actually quite nice last night to be able to sit in bed and just kind of look at Discord and chat with people. Anne's laughing. Yeah.
Oh, your bird art.
Oh, my bird art. Yeah. I do have bird art planned for this year too. Whew.
So there's another Discord channel for consult or something like that?
There is a channel called Bar Chat. And that
okay.
is, that's where the con suite is. That's where a lot of people are hanging out.
So it's text-based.
It is. It's text-based, yeah.
That's nice.
It is. It's fun. I actually chatted with people this morning in there.
Yeah,
There's a couple of rooms in there that are for voice as well if needed, but nobody's done anything. I think there's some room parties, but that'll probably happen this evening. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, it was actually nice to go into the bar chat this morning while I was having my coffee. I had a nice conversation with the other guest of honors about conventions and life, and it was fun.
I just saw a little bit because I was sleeping while you were doing this.
Yes. I don't blame you. You need to get some sleep in if you're going to be here for everything this evening.
Yeah, I'll take things as they come. But so you will be back on with this demonstration with the avatar picture
Yes, I will be. That will be in 2 hours' time.
in 2 hours' time.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep. So and it'll be live, so you'll be able to watch me as I work. We'll see how much I can get done. I can't make any promises.
Okay. Well, it's a problem with these conventions. There's always so much that happens at the same time and sometimes also outside.
Yes.
Together, tonight there's an interesting conversation about cybersecurity too.
And that's always true, even at in-person conventions. There's often things that overlap.
Always.
Yeah, it's always.
So have you been with Chattacon for many years now?
A few years now, yes. I honestly cannot remember how many. Since 2018, maybe, or 2017. And do you remember?
2017, that's not that old.
Yeah, it's not been too long.
2017 sounds about right.
I think it might have been. Yeah. I think it might have been. I started coming to Chattacon because I met you at LibertyCon. Because Melissa got me into LibertyCon, and then you were like, well, you need to be at Chattacon. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I met you through the Bird Whisperer project, actually.
Did you really?
Yeah. Melissa asked if she could use one of my pictures.
Oh, that's right. The
and
duck.
You and Melissa did.
Yeah.
And a few others did that, and that put you on my radar.
Yep.
And about the same day, I was getting ready to drop you a note about Chattacon, and you introduced yourself to me. I don't remember if it was Chattacon or LibertyCon, but we were crossing all over the internet waves.
Yeah.
When is LibertyCon?
It's in June.
June. Do you think it will be virtual too this year?
So it's the June 25th weekend for LibertyCon, and if we don't get shut down right now, we've had discussions with the hotel, and they are having other events, so they are not looking to let anyone out of their contract. So we will be a go, perhaps.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think all the cons, we just have to wait and see, but as of now, there are a lot of cons that are still on the calendar. So
either they are cancelled altogether, or they are Discord and Zoom based right now, which is fine for me because I'm sitting far away.
Yeah,
I can't move a lot anywhere. So that's nice. I am able to travel the world through the Zoom.
That's right.
At
Yes.
various conventions, I've been. I've been to Croatia, New Zealand, Ireland,
Wow.
Germany,
Awesome.
France, of course, and the US, a number of places, and discovered a few conventions that I didn't know much about. This one is quite interesting. I like it. It has a nice feel.
Chattacon is a wonderful group of people. Yeah, it really is. It's a nice con. All right, I think that's it, though. I think time is up. I don't know if they've hit stop on us or not, but I think I'm going to go and grab some lunch.
Do throw us out.
Yes. All right, and I'll see some of you in a couple hours.
Probably.
All right.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
You.